Somebody say yeah. Say it again, say yeah. Somebody say yeah for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You look good out there, baby. I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Look here. It's been too hard living, and I'm afraid to die. Look here. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, I wish I could come out there where you are, baby. A long time coming, but I know, look at here, a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Look at here. Let me say one more thing. I go to the movie and I go downtown. But all I can hear is somebody keep telling me, oh boy, don't hang around. It's been a long. If anybody know what I'm talking about, let me see you wave your hand. I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. But I've got to take my time and say this, look. Then I go to my brother. Yes, sir. And I tell him, I said, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me. He knocks me back down on my. There's been times that I thought, somebody say yeah, I could last long. I know I'm able. I'm able to carry on. It's been a long, good God Almighty, a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Look at here, one more time. Look. Then I go to my brother. Somebody take your hand back and forth like this. Everybody. You sitting in the first balcony too. Help me, please. All over the auditorium tonight. All over the... Hallelujah. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. That's the times what I thought I could last for long. No, I know, baby.
I have a question. Are you tired of listening to the same old radio station, playing the same old music, and using the same old talking points that divide our country? If so, join me at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-Hour Global Radio, a station that's on the move in 2015.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-Hour Global Radio. Today has been a very exciting day. So exciting to where it shows that the good Lord is always a part of the plan when you submit and follow his direction. A couple of weeks ago, I made a decision that was a must that needed to be made. And as a result of making that decision and closing the door, another door opened that I could not have ever imagined. I went to lunch today, and I went home and did my normal routine. And I came back to my office, and I was getting ready to actually prepare another document that I had recently had looked over just prior to going to lunch. And lo and behold, I was contacted by somebody who has been out there looking at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass and has been following the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass for some time. And as a result of what we are doing, these individual people, and I'll give you a clue. I'm not going to give the name. This individual is an award-winning writer, director, and actor. And he's originally from Kingston, Jamaica. And that's all the information I know. I had a phone conversation with this guy. And as a result of this phone conversation, by way of another friend of mine who has a production company that does entertainment, produces movies, so forth and so on, as a result of what we have been trying to do to make a difference, not just in our lives, but those who listen to us each and every night, who may understand some of the topics that we talk about. As a result of all of those efforts and stepping out on faith, not knowing where you're going to go, a door has now been opened. So I'm going to ask that all of you guys out there who are under my listening voice will please send up a prayer that whatever it is that we're working on, it comes to fruition. As a matter of fact, most of you who know me know one thing about me. I am a tough negotiator, and I have very good negotiating skills. So I have no doubt that it will work. I will be able to maintain and or contain everything that I'm doing. If you go out and look on Facebook, you're going to see a live production that I shot today as a result of this conversation. And it is wonderful. There's no boasting and bragging going on. But here's the deal. I am happy, and I want you to tell a neighbor and tell a friend. We got a couple other housekeeping announcements just before we get off into the program. But I want to send out a strong shout out to a good friend of mine whose friend's mother is going through stage 4 cancer. And they are taking it very, very hard at this point. So when we look at people, we never know the struggles that they are going through. And here at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, we always try to feature somebody or anybody that's out there who's willing to give us the information so we can broadcast it live. Now, we're not just throwing ideas and things out there. We're actually talking about things that can help you make a difference. We're not talking about trying to solve a problem over in Africa, when most of us have never been to Africa, with the exception of myself back in 2004. However, there are some small things that I can do. However, on the national nights, we can talk about national topics, so forth and so on. Again, if you don't mind, before you go to bed at night, would you please send up a prayer for my friend's friend who is struggling with stage 4 cancer. And I want to also say and send a shout out to candidate for sheriff Clay Bennett. He just sent me a message that he's out there listening. So Clay, good luck to you and the rest of the candidates. I'm glad that you're listening in tonight. And we will feature you guys on local nights with politics. Now, we're also going to be talking about a topic tonight that I believe sheriff, chief of police, and all of those who are in law enforcement may be able to have some type of input in this particular conversation that we're going to have tonight. Also, Chief Mitch Bratton sent me an announcement today that he will be sworn in as the president of the Louisiana Chiefs Association on July the 8th in Shreveport, Louisiana. The LACP, which is the Louisiana Chiefs Association, represents over 350 municipal, campus, and tribal police chiefs. Chief Bratton says that he will be hosting the conference on July the 7th, July the 8th, and July the 9th. He is currently the first vice president. He says that he's having several local businesses to participate so he can at least bring some of the money back to Caldwell Parish, as well as promote Caldwell Parish to the other chiefs from all over the state. So again, if you're out there, send a shout out to Chief Mitch Bratton on his accomplishment. Also send a shout out to Clay Bennett for listening in tonight. If there's any other candidate that's out there listening, you may text me. You may go on the live player and send me a message or whatever, and I'll do the same for you. Again, we want to send a shout out to Chief Bratton, Chief Clay Bennett, and a lot of those other ones that are out there doing things. And also, please remember to pray for my friend's friends whose mother is struggling with stage 4 cancer. Tonight, the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass would like to extend our gratitudes to you, to our listeners and our supporters, for all that you do, for all that you will continue to do, for without you, we would not exist. You are why we do what we do. And I'm saying we because I'm talking about everybody that is involved in the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. See, I'm the one that's out front, but there are many others who are working behind the scenes. Please continue to stand by me as I press forward to provide relevant information that may make a difference in the life of someone you know by connecting with us on your favorite social media site and sharing. There's a wealth of information provided on our website at www.thesmokingglasshour.com. Information such as links to our social media, players to listen to our live broadcast, 24-hour music, talk shows, and short stories geared toward families. You will also find a Make a Difference photos made exclusively by the Smoking Glass Hour staff that are easily downloaded and shared, or you may want to share the link to that page with your friends so they may choose one that is meaningful to them. Take a moment, just one moment, to click on the tabs at the top of the page and take a look around. We are sure, definitely sure, you will find something there that matters to you, including exclusively Pastor A.F. Riggins, senior pastor founder, Real Life Church out of Houston, Texas, his very own webpage. It can be found by hovering over to the home page, Facebook groups, and fan page found under the More tab. We want you to know how important it is to us to bring information about issues that affect you locally, statewide, and nationally. With that being said, I personally, along with we, welcome your input on topics that matter to you the most. We may be reached by email at www.thesmokingglasshour@gmail.com. If you or someone you know would like to receive updates about scheduled or unannounced shows, you can text 8101 Input in the subject line at the symbol at WMAD, and we can send you a live message of unannounced shows that may happen at a spur of the moment. Once again, thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. We're going to pause right now. We're looking at about 7:42 p.m. Central Standard Time. You are listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour global radio. We're going to play you a small perception, small acts of kindness, because we're trying to, once again, get into the family environment so you can understand that there is a radio program that's out there that has concerns about you and your well-being. Let's take a look.
The book of Ruth shows the power of kindness too. Now an observation and a little inspiration from Ruth. The story of Ruth took place sometime during the rule of the judges. Those were dark days for Israel, when everyone did as he saw fit. But during those dark days and evil times, many remained faithful to God. Naomi and Ruth portrayed beautiful examples of loyalty, friendship, and commitment to each other and to God. One relationship of this caliber can buoy us through the fiercest storms. It was the Beatles who sang, "Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? Oh, the agony of being 64, or any age for that matter, and having no one to care for you or need you. Happy are those who have one companion, one relationship that is not based on looks or performance. Every person is in dire need of at least one faithful friend, or a mate who will look him in the eye and say, 'I will never leave you. You may grow old and gray, but I'll never leave you. Your face may wrinkle and your body may ruin, but I'll never leave you. The years may be cruel and the times may be hard, but I'll be here. I will never leave you.'" Think for a minute about the people in your world. What do they think of your commitment to them? How would they rate your faithfulness? Does your loyalty ever waver? With whom are you a friend forever? Pray for that person today. You are listening to Perceptions on WMAD 24-hour global radio.
We are back broadcasting live with the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour global radio. Now I have to apologize because there's so much going on in the background to where I actually had the mic on mute for about the first minute. So charge it to my head and not my heart, because I wanted to make sure that you guys were able to hear the commercial in its entirety. It's called Perception, Small Acts of Kindness. If I have an opportunity before the program ends, I'll play the beginning so you can hear it. I believe that it will help make a difference. It will help others that are out there that are doing things. So I know that we can make a difference by doing the right thing. Now, what we're going to do is go into the heart of the matter. And tonight's show is Life After Prison. ex-offenders who face many challenges when re-entering to society. Now, I'm willing to bet that most of us understand how hard it is for someone to resume life after a stint dealing with incarceration. We've heard about the profound barriers ex-offenders face in the job market. 9 out of 10 large employers now run criminal background checks, often in ways that violate clear federal rules against job biases. During election years, we often hear about the voting rights restriction of some people with criminal records that they face. And if you follow the issues closely, then you may even know about the huge number of other potential reactions and restrictions on the ability to get student financial aid, to live in public housing, and to obtain hundreds of occupational licenses, plus many, many more. But you see, few people who haven't dealt directly with incarceration, either themselves or with a loved one, appreciate the massive psychological toll it takes as well. If the men in our third installment of the Life Cycle of Inequity series are indicative, the profound challenge of resuming life after prison is not defined solely by external affairs, like finding work, like finding a home to stay in. What about those internal battles like shedding the emotional and mental trauma from lockup? You see, for the last 5 years, the U.S. Attorney's Office across this country have been grappling with improving the reentry of ex-felons back into society. So when you hear people talk about rehabilitation, when you talk to most people who have gone to jail, 99% of them will tell you that there's no such thing as rehabilitation as you know it. In 2015, the largest barriers to building a normal life after prison are trouble finding jobs, housing, and ongoing legal struggles even after you get out of jail. Now, people who have committed a criminal offense, they soon realize there's a lot more to worry about than the arrest itself. But you don't understand that. More than just spending time in jail, it's important to consider the lifelong implications of a criminal record, which places constraints on living. It affects the way people live. It affects the way people do things. And it causes some to pay more than twice the price to their offense. So when we have a conversation with convicted felons who have paid their debts to society and they still receive that revolving door on a daily basis, what do you understand about this individual? Do you judge them? Do you criticize them? Do you make up excuses to not hire them? Do you make them an excuse and you say that you are a Christian today, but then tomorrow when these people need a chance, you don't give them a chance? The question is, who am I? What am I representing? What is it that I want to do to make a difference in my community? Tonight's show is not to show partiality to convicted felons or ex-offenders re-entering society. That's not the purpose of tonight's show. Tonight's show is to shed some light so you can understand, you can better understand that when you see a lot of guys that's out there walking and you're asking, why aren't they at work? Well, they may be a convicted felon. They may have one blemish on their record, and that blemish is preventing them from getting a job. So again, who are you? What am I representing? Do I really want to make a difference in my community? See, criminal convictions can have long-lasting impact on a defender's life, but you don't know that. Some by operations of the law, such as restriction on them being able to go out and vote, and some rights can be restored, and the ability to possess a firearm following conviction of certain crimes. Others have impact on their professional or their work life. Societal impacts follow them as well. Now, What some don't bargain for is the haunting effects that being branded a criminal or a felon can have on day-to-day living and the collateral cost. The legal obligation to disclose a criminal record can affect a person's ability to get a job. Once again, can affect them to get a house, can affect them to get a loan, can affect them from receiving public benefits or financial aid just for an education. You see, we talk about Jesus forgiving, but the question is, how many times does man want to forgive his or her fellow man? That's the question. What's more, those charges will likely show up on their record for the rest of their life. Now, some may be saying, well, you can get an expungement, but guess what? An expungement has a price tag with it. And if they don't have a job, if they can't get a job, then that price tag means nothing because they don't have the money to have an expungement. And expungement can be fairly expensive. Many of these impacts, we know, are logical and serve a legitimate purpose. Now, however, there are many times that the impact is greater and longer lasting than the crime merits itself. So again, we're talking about convicted felons who have paid their debts to society, who receive that revolving door on a daily basis. We're talking about life after prison. We're talking about ex-offenders facing many challenges when they re-enter society. Now, it goes even deeper than that, a whole lot deeper. On top of even more basic challenges, like transportation. We take that for granted. Transportation to work or transportation to see a probation officer. Guess what? Many ex-offenders, they don't even have a driver's license. Because if they get 5 years, most driver's license only lasts for 4. So when they get out, driver's license expired. So when they get out, they can't get a job because they have that blemish. When they get out, they're faced with going back into the same environment from which they came from. They are faced with making the same choices that they were making before they went in. I have seen it over and over and over. Now, the question is there a setup out there? I'm not going to say that it is. I will say partially when you look at the system. The question is, who is it designed for? What is it designed for? What is the purpose? If we talk about rehabilitation and there's no rehabilitation inside of those walls, what is the inmate supposed to do? What is the ex-offender supposed to do? So guess what? Many of these people, they are caught on the horns of a simple dilemma. Here's the question that some of them ask. Do I need to see my probation officer and get in trouble for not seeing him? Or do I run the risk of driving without a license to see my probation officer? See, again, we take this for granted, but they have no choice but to look at this. These are the kinds of very real problems ex-offenders face every day. And I am hoping to shed some light on the situation that most don't understand, and no one is asking for any excuse tonight, especially here at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. Now, here's the thing that I've learned from some of these guys. For those who may be using marijuana, and there are many people who use marijuana, who wear a shirt and tie every day, who have high-ranking jobs, so forth and so on, they don't get caught. But you take some little hustler that's on the street, that's out there selling or maybe using, and we're out here debating now that marijuana becomes legal. We put them in jail. Jail is for criminals. Jail is for those who go out and commit murder. Jail is for those who go out and rape and rob, armed robbery, those heinous crimes. So when we look at the system itself, are we really doing the right thing? That's a question I'm posing to you. I'm not weighing in on it. I'm not weighing out on it. I'm not in opposition of it. I'm not a proponent of it. What I am asking is you to come and get involved and stand by the Smoking Glass Hour as we try to address these issues that most people do not understand. Again, most people do not understand. Now, these criminals, they understand. Now, despite there's more need for services than there are people currently providing them. Why is that? Well, if you have 50,000 people that's in jail, hypothetically, and you only have one agency of dealing with reentry programs, it cannot accommodate it. So the question is, again, how can we help our fellow man? How can we tell a neighbor, tell a friend? How can we go out and start making a difference in our community? Now, once again, we're not talking about excusing anything. We're not talking about giving special privileges. The only thing we're doing is asking you, can you hear? Can you hear what I'm talking about? In a few moments, I'm going to play a perception titled My Hearing. And I want you to listen very, very close to this perception. And I'll guarantee you that it's going to play from the beginning to the end. But I want to see if you can catch the point that we're trying to make on the Smoking Glass Hour. You can hear from the natural, or you can hear from the spirit. You can also hear when this individual is in court having a hearing. But I want you to catch the point. And if you catch the point, please go out and share this with somebody else, because again, we are on the move in 2015 at the Smoking Glass Hour. We're looking at about 7:58 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're listening to, once again, the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD. I'm going to pause for about 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Please don't go away. Please listen to the perception that I'm about to play, because I think it will have a lasting impression on you. Here we go.
The preacher told the congregation if anyone wanted to be prayed for to come to the altar. Billy Bob got in line. The preacher eventually got to him and asked, "What's your prayer request?" Billy Bob said, "Preacher, I need you to pray for my hearing." The preacher immediately placed one finger into the guy's ear, placed his other hand on top of the man's head, and said a magnificent prayer. The congregation shouted with enthusiasm. Then the preacher stepped back and asked, "So Billy Bob, testify. How is your hearing?" Billy Bob replied, "Well, how should I know? It's not until Tuesday." This old joke is a good illustration about how easy it is to jump to conclusions. Even with good intentions, we can fail to ask the right question. We've all had it happen. It's been said your assumptions are your windows on the world. Scrub them off every once in a while, or the light won't come through. Hearing accurately was crucial to Jesus. Check out this text in Matthew 13, verses 1 through 17. On the same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the sea, and great multitudes were gathered together to him, so that he got into a boat and sat. And the whole multitude stood on the shore. Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, "Behold, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground, and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears to hear, let him hear." You are listening to Perceptions on WMAD 24-hour Global Radio.
Racism. The belief that all members of each race possess characteristics or abilities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race or races. Baron Glass, host of the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, each and every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on the #1 global 24-hour radio station, WMAD. Join my co-host April Ayala and I as we make an attempt to bring this evil system and a way of life for some to the forefront and have an open discussion with civility and honesty with hopes of minimizing this problem that has affected so many lives. We ask that you join us. We all can make a change, and we surely can make a difference.
We are back broadcasting live with the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour global radio. We're looking at about 8:02 p.m. Central Standard Time. I want to send a shout out to some of our listeners out there. Those who are down in South Louisiana, want to say thank you for tuning in. Those who are out in the state of Texas, want to say thank you for tuning in. Those who are directly here in the parish, I want to say thank you for tuning in. Those of you who are listening out there on the east and the west side of the state, want to say thanks for tuning in. Want to say thank you to any candidate that's out there who may be running or considering running. Thanks for tuning in to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass as we talk about life after prison, ex-offenders who face many challenges when they re-enter society. Another note, a conversation with convicted felons who have paid their debts to society and still receive their revolving door on a daily basis. Many felons that I talk to on a daily basis, they tell me that they don't know any groups that are trying to help when they get out of jail, and that may be factually correct. Now, this is a fact. It is no surprise to some, and to others who have no clue about the revolving door for convicted felons, it may be a surprise to you. And remember, no one tonight at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD is asking for your sympathy. Just understanding of what it's like to be a convicted felon after the fact. Often prisons do a fairly poor job of helping to set up successful integration back into society. Oftentimes, people are left to do their own devices and own decision making where they go and what they do next, having been incarcerated for 5 or 10 years. Now, if you look back into the year of 2000, the year of 1990, 1985, what happened then, the world has totally changed. If you look at when you first had the cell phone invention until now with iPhone, smartphones that does everything a computer do, and you've been inside incarcerated and you get out, there is life after that you just don't understand. When there is no support system or guidance, the decks are stacked against ex-offenders when they return home. And some of these people happen to be married, happen to have kids. They happen to have made just one simple mistake. And make no mistake about it, for anybody who's listening, we're not talking about excusing any crime. What I am talking about is that when a person has gone to jail and paid their debts to society, served their time, they are no longer on paper, they made a mistake, they have asked for forgiveness, what would Jesus do? That's not the question. The question is, what is it that you are willing to do? Are you still willing to hang this stigma over their head? Or are you still willing to open up your heart and say, okay, I understand that you may have made a mistake in life, but you know what? I'm going to give you a chance to prove to me that you are worthy of my time. Now, we know that some of them may be going back into situations where you may have economic disadvantages. Look at a parish that is 100% economically deprived. There's no industry. Okay, and most of the situations have mom and pop stores. And if you try to bring industry in, it always meets resistance. The question is, why is that? Why is that? You may have criminal lifestyles that are fairly rampant in your area, in your community. You may have tremendous opportunities for drugs and other crimes that's in your area. The question is, what can we do to make a difference? Because here's a quote by one of the U.S. attorneys that's in office that I personally know. He says that 2 out of 3 ex-offenders commit crimes and return to prison within 3 years of their release. And that's never part of the plan. The question is, Whose plan is it? Is it the private prison industry that's making money? Is it the people that we elect who take money away from schools, who take money away from education when education is supposed to be the highest priority, but yet and still they build more prisons? They take a formula of how many kids that's in the third grade, or how many kids that's doing bad, or how many kids that's not performing well. And what do? They build prisons. So no one leaves jail thinking, and let me make sure I dispel this. No one leaves jail thinking, I can't wait to commit another crime so I can go straight back to jail. Everybody comes out probably not optimistic, but hoping they can find a way that they can make it and make it work for them and their family. Most go by on a day-to-day basis hoping things will get better. That's the only thing that they can do at that point. The question is, are you hoping that it gets better for this person? Are you hoping to make life better and brighter for this person who happens to be an ex-offender? The questions are, what are you willing to do to make this better? What are you willing to do to try to come out of your comfort zone and understand the life of an ex-con, a person who has committed a small crime that rises to the level of a convicted felon? What happens? What happens if a person is 18 years of age? They get out there and they want to celebrate, and they just happen to not drink. And all of a sudden they decide, well, I have succeeded in life. I at least graduated from high school when maybe my parent didn't, my mom didn't, my dad didn't. I'm the first person, and they want to celebrate. So they decide to take a sip of alcohol. And I'm saying a sip. I'm not talking about getting drunk. But because they do not drink, their body cannot tolerate the alcohol. They go out, they get a DWI. That DWI ends up becoming something on their record. They made this one mistake out of 18 years. So as a result of this one mistake out of 18 years, the question is, should that blemish deter them from ever getting a job again? Now, when you bring in race, there's a distinct difference between those who are coming from poverty level versus those who are coming out on the upper side of the economic system. The question is, what we would tell folks who may be skeptical is, even if they don't sympathize with the offenders, the question is, or the statement is, because all of this stuff is kind of complicated. Don't do it all for them. Do it for yourself. So when we're talking about this tonight, we're not talking about doing it for the ex-offender. We're talking about helping them. But more importantly, we're talking about doing something good from your heart if it is warranted. It doesn't benefit them being put back in jail, but it does benefit public safety to remove barriers to being law-abiding citizen. Now, when we look at a piece of factual information, we know that according to the National Institute of Justice, a substantial share of the United States population has arrest records. At nearly 1/3 of American adults have been arrested by the age of 23. 1/3, 33%. So when you start to factoring in 33% of the overall population, that is a lot of people. Once an arrest has been made, it at that point becomes public record. Now, we know that the law allows for the arrest on a charge to be public record, even if that person has not yet been convicted. We know also that in very limited circumstances, a person can actually clear or remove their criminal record by having them sealed or expunged. But here's a problem. Relatively minor crimes may be eligible for sealing or removal, but may take some time and it may take some money. And if they can't find the job, they don't have the money, but they have the time. Now, unless a person has been pardoned for the offense, the records of a capital felony, first-degree felony, or violent felony, automobile homicide, felony driving under the influence, or a registered sex offense cannot be expunged in many places across the country. Now, when we look at the concept of education and career impacts, we know ourselves that people with criminal records have an increased difficulty for finding a job, and most employers require applicants to list any crimes they have been convicted of. So here we are. You take a person who has a college degree or some other type of higher education. They make an error in life one time. They get out of jail. And this has been personally told to me by a convicted felon. They go in for a job. They answer all the questions honestly. And it says on there, have you ever been convicted of a felon? This individual indicated to me they are faced with this choice. Either to lie and get the job and hope that they get the job and work until they run a background check and they find out that the person's lied to at least receive a check, or do they be honest from the outset knowing that they may not get the job? The question is, if you've never been in jail, this may not be a concern to you. However, what I'm trying to do is open up the dialogue so you can understand why some of these people may not be able to find a job. Now, let's make sure that this is corrected. We're not talking about those who are lazy. Okay? We're not talking about those who just won't get up and go out and go do something. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is people who deserve that chance. Okay? But as a result of that chance, somehow they just can't get it. Somehow it's hard for them to be able to do that. So we're talking about considering those individuals. And once again, for the third time, the trio, we're not talking about giving anybody sympathy for anything. We're not talking about excusing the fact that a person did the crime. We're talking about a person that did the crime, has paid their debts to society. They've come out. They've done everything that was required of them. They're living a healthy life. They just need a chance to get a job. Now, a criminal record will keep many people from obtaining employment. If we look at the National Institute of Justice, it says this: even if they have paid their dues or qualify for the job, some of them are unlikely to re-offend or be offered the job. Individuals who have been incarcerated are significantly more likely to be unemployed, underemployed, or underpaid than they were prior to their incarceration. Now, you can fact check this. This is according to a report by the Pew Charitable Trust. Even more important, for those who have been incarcerated and are able to find jobs, they are likely to earn 40% less per year than they would have earned before their incarceration, according to that same report by the Pew Charitable Trust. We know for a fact that a conviction might effectively disqualify someone who is applying for college or certain scholarships. We also know that those convicted of drug crimes cannot receive student loans in a lot of cases. We know that boards, they often prevent convicted felons from entering occupations such as hairstylists, barbers, and things of that nature. It is really, really hard because felons are even more serious and often make it impossible to work in certain fields. We know that state laws, and as I said, licensing boards, they often prevent people from having that lifestyle. We're going to pause right now. We're looking at about 8:16 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD. We'll be right back.
A clever commercial shows a man who's very frustrated with his TV provider. He hits the arm of his chair in anger. His cute little daughter sees him and, wearing a devious smile, imitates him. Just like her dad, she smacks something too. A decade passes. She's now a teenager. She again is an imitator of her father. This time she smacks a tray held by a high school principal. She is expelled from school. She starts hanging out at the wrong places with the wrong crowd. She meets and marries an undesirable boyfriend. The next scene shows that she is a mom and her toddler is wearing a dog collar. The commercial concludes with an urgent appeal to switch service providers. Don't let your grandson wear a dog collar. Get DirecTV. The humorous ad illustrates how simple actions and habits can result in major consequences. One thing truly leads to something else. It can work in either direction, for good or for bad. It's worth remembering that someone's always watching the example we are setting. We never know the impact we're making on another. Now a reading from Titus 2, verses 6 through 8. Likewise, exhort the young men to be sober-minded, in all things showing yourself to be a pattern of good works, in doctrine showing integrity, reverence, incorruptibility, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that one who is an opponent may be ashamed, having nothing evil to say of you. You are listening to Perceptions on WMAD 24-Hour Global Radio.
Hello, this is Baron Glass, host of the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on the all-new #1 global radio station, WMAD. Before I do my live broadcasting, I always dine in at the all-new Main Street Seafood Restaurant located in downtown Columbia, Louisiana, owned and operated by Miss Brett. Check them out. I did.
We are back broadcasting live with the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-Hour Global Radio. Once again, if you're just tuning in, I want to say thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening in to the live broadcast. We're talking tonight about ex-cons, life after prison. They face many challenges when re-entering into society. A conversation with convicted felons who have paid their debts to society but still receive their revolving door on a daily basis. No matter how exemplary a person leads their life after their conviction, their past record will continue to show from here on after. The damage to a personal and professional reputation, having a criminal record, and the discrimination that often follows can also have a huge impact on a person's life. Societal stigma can be attached greater than is appropriate for some. Many people make an isolated mistake, perhaps an indiscretion of youth, go on to take responsibility for their actions. They pay an appropriate cost and should be able to move on with their lives, especially for the less serious offense. And if you don't grasp anything else tonight, that's the point that I'm trying to hone on for those who have made a mistake. Those who have made the mistake and paid their debts to society. Those who have made the mistake and paid their debts to society and still receive that revolving door. All they want is a chance. All they deserve is a chance. The question is, are you willing to give them a chance? Are you willing to step up to the plate? Besides, some of us have made many mistakes. The only problem is we just never got caught. Some of us have made many mistakes, but because of who we are or what we represent or how much money we have, we've had things taken care of. Some of us don't have those privileges. So if you're talking about leveling the playing field, just consider giving these people known as ex-cons, ex-offenders, or whatever it is that you want to call it, maybe even a child of God, they deserve the chance. Being arrested, we know, tried and sent to prison can give someone a sense that they are excluded from society. And when people are excluded from society, even after they've served their time, they feel a sense of hope. They feel a sense of hopelessness. They feel like they no longer are involved in the process. So what happens? When those devils started twirling in your head and they started telling you, well, nobody cares about you, and they may not be as close to God as you are, but they might be close. See, sometimes we are feeding people steaks when we should be feeding them baby food. So a lot of these problems, they start right at the person with the man in the mirror who's looking and who's seeing. We know that criminal records may result in a denial of people being able to purchase homes, even to purchase a car, to get a business loan if they want to. So some may say, well, why can't they start their own business? Well, let's look at a low budget business. If they don't have a job, where do they get the money from? If they can't get a job, where do they get the money from? If they go out and rob and steal, they go back to jail. So the question is, what is it that we can do to help somebody along the way? What is it that we can do locally to make a difference in our community? Who are you willing to stand by? What is it that you're willing to do? Are you willing to come outside of your comfort zone? We know that an ex-con or a convicted felon, there are collateral consequences. And those collateral consequences are now harder to avoid or mitigate. Expunging or sealing a record, as I said earlier, often requires expensive legal fees. Unless you're well connected, unless you've been shown favoritism, unless you just happen to get a blessing. And I'm not going to call it luck. I'm going to call it a blessing. As a result of what happens, there's evidence that collateral consequences actually hurt ex-offenders' effort to keep their lives on track. I was able to go back to some of my old notes on several engagements years ago. And I look back at a 2009 study, and they sent out job applicants. And I want you to pay close attention to this. A 2009 study sent out job applicants who were evenly matched, which means they both had the same credentials. Evenly matched, the same credentials. I want to make sure you get this. Evenly matched, the same credentials, except that one of the two had a criminal record on the job interview. The criminal record reduced the chances of a callback by 50% for all applicants. That means half. Half of the people never received a callback. And twice as much for blacks as for whites. The point I'm trying to make is the system is not fair. The point I'm trying to make is let's make it as fair as possible for all people, regardless as to where they come from or who they may know or how much money they may reside with. People coming out of prison have a large number of things they already are facing. They face on a daily basis, they face stigma. They face a spotty work history. In some cases, they have no history. They face, in some instances, low educational levels. They face issues around substance abuse. They face issues of mental health. See, I'm talking about these collateral consequences. They can create a practical barrier that can make the already difficult situation of community integration more difficult. And if I hadn't done anything yet, I believe at this point I have sealed the deal in tonight's conversation, because we know that people, once again, are coming out of prison at a large number, and they are already facing these particular things like stigma, like low educational levels, like issues of substance abuse, like spotty work history, like mental health. If you take an individual who's gone overseas, served the country, but they can't get assistance and help at the VA. It's the same identical thing. The only thing I'm saying is we're not asking for any excuse for anybody. One of the worst things that a former prisoner may also feel is when they feel less invested in society, when they have been excluded, when they are being excluded. Take a marriage. When your husband decides to exclude you in what's going on, how do you feel? Take the marriage. When the wife excludes you, how do you feel? When you restrict somebody from the right to vote and other things, in a sense, we are continuing to withhold certain things related to citizenship almost. Some people believe that. My verdict is still out, but some people believe that. Maybe you can call them hardliners. Maybe you can call them weird people. However, people are entitled to have their own beliefs. That restriction, that is the way people feel about how they are able to maneuver around the world after they have received their time served. The question I want to close by asking is this. If a person has committed a crime, if a person has served their time, if a person has served their time and now able to re-enter society and hopefully become a productive citizen of these United States where liberty and justice for all is cited all the time. The question is to you tonight, when does the punishment stop? Or at what point have these people done their time? A feeling of investment in society is better for you and it's better for them. You have been listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour global radio. You're looking at about 8:29 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to pause and play another perception on how kids succeed. Stay tuned.
Paul Tuff's book, How Children Succeed, challenges the assumption that the best way for kids to do well is by cramming as much information into their heads as possible. He cites research that shows kids do better over the long haul if the focus is more on developing character traits instead of memory work. He defines character as having attributes like concentration, focus, and discipline. Students who learn to persevere and know how to complete a task will build a foundation for a much better life. He's by no means in opposition to the traditional learning methods, but he believes character development is the chief component of success. His emphasis reminded me of the research study in the 60s and 70s called the Marshmallow Test. This study determined that children who were deferred gratification were more competent and successful later in life. Skills and competencies can be taught. Good chemistry with teammates is important too, but it's virtually impossible to maintain a winning team without strong character. Without this key ingredient, success will most likely be sabotaged. Now, a short reading from Romans 5:1-5. Therefore, having been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we also have access by faith into this grace in which we stand, and rejoice in hope of the glory of God. And not only that, but we also glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, and perseverance character, and character hope. Now hope does not disappoint, because the love of God has been poured out in our hearts by the Holy Spirit who was given to us. You are listening to Perceptions on WMAD 24-hour Global Radio.
Hello, this is Pastor A.F. Riggins of Real Life Church, Houston, Texas. We welcome you to hear our broadcast every Tuesday night right here on Blog Talk USA and WMAD Radio, www.SmokingGlassHour.com. Real people, real life, real answers. A Bible study every morning on WMAD Radio, the SpokenGlassHour.com, 7 a.m., Monday through Friday. You get a word of God, a sermon. And Sunday mornings at 9 a.m., same place, you can hear a word of God. If you're in the Houston area, come and visit us at the Real Life Church, 2703 Highway 6 South, Suite 150 in Houston, Texas. 10:45 a.m. is our worship. Also, you can tune in to Blog Talk USA on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. for Wrap It Up Live. Community issues with real people, real life, and real answers. This is Pastor A.F. Riggins. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Looking forward to hearing you on our broadcast. Remember, prayer still works. That's good news. That's the power in the name of Jesus to break every chain. Amen.
It's time to take back control of our society. Today's world requires an open and honest discussion about the current events. On the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, our goal is to engage people from different walks of life into a healthy discussion, creating a positive outcome. When it comes to global events, tune in to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on Monday nights at 7:30. We don't just listen to the news, we bring you the news.
We are back broadcasting live with the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour global radio. We're looking at about 8:33 p.m. Central Standard Time. I want to also give out this reminder that Election Day is October the 24th. The early voting dates for this election is October the 10th through the 17th. We have candidates for sheriff. We have Mr. Clay Bennett. We have Mr. Mitch Bratton. We have Mr. David Crane. We have Mr. Courtney Dunn, and I believe there may be several, Mr. Hank Balls, and there may be several others that are out there that may not have announced their candidacy. Also, for the clerk of court race, we have Mr. David May, we have Miss Dina Domain, we have Miss Lauren Young, we have Miss Cherie Cox, and we have Mr. Greg Richardson. Now, to make sure that nobody gets this wrong, the order that I am calling these individuals out has absolutely nothing to do with who I am supporting. I had to dispel that rumor from the last broadcast or the initial broadcast, so please don't get it twisted. Let's just take it for what it's worth. I am doing a simple announcement that is not costing any candidate a red penny at this point. So again, we want to thank everybody, and I mean everybody, regardless as to who you are, regardless as to whether you don't know who I am, regardless as to if you know who I am and you don't like me. The point is, you don't have to like me. I'm glad that you're tuned in, and maybe there's something that has been said tonight that will give you a different perception of ex-offenders and how they have to live their life. See, we play these perceptions to try and capture your mind. So at the end of the broadcast, the question is, what perception do you have of the topic that you just heard on? Hey, it can be an A, it can be a C, it can be a B, it can be a D, it can be an F. But guess what? My mother always taught me that sometimes it's not about winning the fight. It's about having enough courage to get in the fight. So you see, at the Smoking Glass Hour, once again, we talk about racism. We talk about sexism. We talk about gays and lesbians. We talk about what the Bible says. We talk about everything that's under the sun, because there's nothing new under the sun. And we don't try to boast and brag. Only thing we do is try to make a difference in the lives of those who may hear the broadcast. Again, I want to thank you personally from the Smoking Glass Hour and on behalf of the entire staff. Please tell a neighbor, tell a friend that we are on the move in 2015. Again, if you would like to receive unannounced updates of live shows, because I can go live at 12 o'clock tonight, if you will personally text me at 81010 and put in for the subject at the @ WMAD, it will not give me your telephone number. You will not get my telephone number. I will be able to send you links, updates about what's going on, this, that, doesn't. So because we're going to be talking politics for a very long time. We're talking local and state politics every Thursday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Also, I want to encourage you, if you want to hear the word of God, check out Pastor A.F. Riggins' Senior Pastor Founder, Real Life Church out of Houston, Texas, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock p.m. on the same station, www.thesmokingglasshour.com. Also, you can listen to WMAD on TuneIn Radio. You can go there by searching for WMAD. We have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, music, talk shows, things of that nature. At 7 a.m. in the morning, each and every morning, Monday through Friday, we have featuring Pastor Riggins, Real People, Real Life, Real Answers, the Word of God. At 8 o'clock, we start to mixing it up with all varieties of music, not rap. At 11 o'clock a.m., for those of you who are in the state in South Louisiana, we have 1 full hour of Zydeco music. At 12 noon, we mix it up with news. At 1 o'clock, we go back to mixing it up with some of the best songs that are out there. I know some of you love the sounds of Motown, love the sounds of Mays and Frankie Beverly, love the sounds of Smokey Robinson, all of those other artists that are out there, Gladys Knight and the Pips. At 3 o'clock p.m., we feature a live archive show of the Smoking Glass Hour. At 5:15 p.m., we have romantic dinner jazz. So if you're driving and you want to calm down, you want to calm your nerves, check us out. At 7:30 p.m. on Monday nights, of course, you have the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, and it is always latest night, and I'm going to resume back to latest night here pretty shortly. At 8 o'clock p.m., we have the same thing going on Thursday nights, which is local politics. On Wednesday nights, we have Faith Matters with Mr. Nicholas Gonzalez out of Florida, along with other topics. When you look at 9:30, for all of you lovers who have put the kids to sleep and you want to have some quality time with your mate, please tune in for Romance After Dark. And on Saturdays, we have all genres of music. Sundays, we have all-day Christian and gospel music. We started out at 7:30 in the morning with Faith Matters with Mr. Nicholas Gonzalez. We kick it back off at 9 o'clock a.m. with Real People, Real Life, Real Answers with a live sermon broadcast by Pastor A.F. Riggins, Senior Pastor Founder, Real Life Church out of Houston, Texas. And Pastor Riggins closed it out that same night, Sunday, at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll wrap it up live featuring different topics. Again, you have been listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour Global Radio. May the good Lord be with you until we meet again. Thanks and have a wonderful, wonderful day. To God be the glory.